What's happening with the supermicrocomputer stock? A very interesting situation seems to be unfolding. Let's also look at volatility. We'll definitely touch upon the volatility smile. Let's review all the current spreads at the moment. This information will certainly help us formulate a sound strategy. Let's also examine the options chain. And let's touch on 3D volatility as well. It's sending us some very interesting signals. Let's start from the very beginning. I've already done reviews on this stock, mentioning that the potential for price movement is nearing its end. Let's see what has happened during this time. Yes, it reached $1,200. Let's immediately move on to volatility. Let's study it in more detail, starting with options. Currently, the volatility of the stock is fluctuating around 100%. This is very significant volatility. Yes, it has risen to 120, but at the moment it has stopped at 100. Let's look at the volatility smile. At the moment, as we can see, there's more of a shift towards puts, but there's also a slight bend and increase towards calls. And this will definitely help us in formulating future strategies, which I will show you. But based on this chart, again, traders are more inclined towards downward shifts. Let's look at historical and implied volatility. As we can see, implied volatility, meaning the current volatility, is lower than historical volatility. Again, for strategy formulation, this isn't a very good signal because at any moment it could return to its historical values. But again, as we see, over a longer period of time, historical and implied volatility tend to converge. Let's also take a look at the open interest in options. Yes, there's not much to see here because the volume is very low. Our main contracts are concentrated around levels of $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, and $1,500. This is regarding call options. Put options are centered around $1,000, $900, $800, and there's a very large volume concentrated around $500. What conclusion can we draw from this? I remind you of my philosophy that I can't predict price movements. The most important thing is position management. Anyone who claims they know where the stock will go is absolutely delusional. Working on proper position management always brings satisfactory results. The question is, where will the stock go? Again, I absolutely don't change my opinion that the risk-to-reward ratio is not in favor of the investor. I mean that the stock could rise to $1,300 or even higher to $1,400, but it could also fall sharply to $700, $600, and the mathematical ratio is simply not in your favor. Again, the question is, are you willing to risk earning those $100, $200 per share and potentially losing much more? If we look at 3D volatility, immediately professionals will understand that ensuring these shares you bought through options will be practically impossible. The cost will be very high. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Therefore, at the moment, again, in my opinion, I would stay away from this stock because the profit potential from it is either drying up or nearing its end. That's my opinion. Again, I assume that in the near future, I mean months or half a year, the stock may well correct itself and return to its usual values. Again, I remind you that gamma compression also played a role in the rise here. This is when market makers need to hedge their options. Let's look at the option chain. There's aggressive buying of calls going on. And on the other side, market makers are selling calls to you. And to not lose money, they use delta-neutral hedging strategies. This is a dynamic strategy. And if the stock starts to rise, they'll have to buy new shares to balance their delta. And therefore, the stock will accelerate. But again, until the potential is exhausted. Because when the stock starts to fall, all these market makers will have to get rid of these stocks because the hedge is no longer needed. When this tipping point will come, no one knows. But I can tell you for sure, sooner or later, it will come. Yes, there was a very important trigger here that the company is entering the SP 500 index. Again, in my opinion on this matter, I've stated that heavily inflated stocks enter the SP 500 index. And of course, this won't help it in the long run. That's my opinion. Again, I remind you that the company is not bad. The company is very good with very good fundamentals. We can look at its metrics. As we can see, there's huge profit growth and revenue growth. But again, the price-to-earnings ratio has become very detached from its fundamental indicators. Yes, the stock is good, but not at this price. The stock may be good at $300, maybe $200, but not at $1,000. Why buy an overly expensive product? I wouldn't do that. But again, disclaimer, under no circumstances should you act on my advice. You will definitely lose money. These are solely my thoughts and my reasoning regarding this stock. Let's try to create some sort of working strategy. Let's see if there's anything we can do here or not. When crafting my strategies, I use options. We definitely utilize volatility. Volatility is very high right now, and it can be exploited very well. But again, do not ever repeat what I'm doing, because they are very dangerous. I've put together a small strategy using options. As we can see, the profitability profile is positive no matter which way the stock goes. If the stock rises to $1,300, we'll make $32,000. If it drops to $900, we'll make $20,000. So within this range, the strategy is break even. But again, if we expand to more serious ranges, the strategy could start incurring very serious losses. So you need to hedge. Again, Never open any strategies without understanding the options market. This strategy will need to be managed, adjusted, buying stocks, hedging, selling options. It's all very, very complex. Again, I'm just hypothetically giving you such a strategy. I personally won't open it. I won't get involved with this company. I'm simply saying that you can make money on this stock, not just by buying or selling this company, but by earning regardless of which way the price moves. That's my main point. Remember, this is always the most important thing. It's not about predicting price movements, but managing positions skillfully. If you have any questions, be sure to email me. I'll help you compose a competent portfolio. Again, we can touch on the news of this company, but I wouldn't advise you to pay any particular attention to these news because they only affect the company's stock price momentarily. But if we're talking about a longer-term perspective, then news doesn't affect the company. Also, I conducted a poll in my channel. Let's see where the viewers think the stock might go. Will it rise, will it fall, or will it continue consolidation at this same level? I assume that the gamma squeeze and short squeeze are exhausted in this company, but they are not exhausted in other companies about which I have recorded videos. There is a very large profit potential there. I advise you to watch this video. Good luck to everyone.